Just a little bit of a delay on the live end. And we are live. Take it away.
All right. Well, I will call the meeting to order, the July 14th meeting of the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Let's jump right into our roll call. I am the chair, Dylan McDowell, and Keith Norris.
I'm here.
Alan Alexander. Oh. Alan, we're not able to hear you. This is always a good chance for our sound check.
It's better now, and I'm here.
Perfect. Perfect. Woody Dukes.
Present.
And Dave Friedmaker announced let us know he will not be here. Rick Hartwig.
Here.
Al Holland is running late. Joan Lloyd.
Here.
And Debbie Miller.
Here.
Well, everyone, we're excited to be joined by our newest member, Debbie Miller. Debbie, I'd love for you just to take a minute to introduce yourself. We're all pleased to get to know you.
Thank you. I'm Debbie Miller. I am a retired physician. I retired last year. And I kind of thought to myself, what should I do? Because I'm not that old to retire. I'm only 63. And so I thought things that are important to me, parks is very important to me. I've always thought a lot about, spent a lot of time in the park, spent a lot of time outside. I'm a master recycler and I'm very into hiking and biking. And I was a Girl Scout and Boy Scout leader, a lot of camping, backpacking. So to me, parks get me excited. I see how much good they do for people and how they improve the health of the, more than pills can. And so I volunteered and surprisingly I got chosen because I don't think I had a lot of qualifications other than enthusiasm, but.
That is a very important one. It sounds like great experience that you're bringing to the board. It's great to hear about all your different ways of staying active and yeah, wonderful. Really excited to hear about that and excited for you to be joining us.
Thank you.
I guess I should, before we jump into the rest of the agenda, just a couple other changes. So in case everyone didn't see, Tony Whitler is moving on to a different position. And then there are some changes so Rob has been chosen to take over for Patricia's role. So congratulations, Rob. Really excited to continue working with you and for you to be taking on that new layer of leadership. So we do get to continue working with Rob, and Rob during his update can share a little bit more, but there's going to be some hiring to fill in some more positions in the Parks Department. But and then later I'd like to talk a little bit more about Tony and Patricia and just if we all can make either a resolution or ask for a certificate or something just to acknowledge the service they've done. So we'll come back to that a little bit later. Let's go on to our minutes. If everyone had a chance to review those, you can take a moment now, and then we'll need a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Motion to approve.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right, the minutes are approved through a voice vote. And do we have any public comment today? Maureen Mcgee, I don't recognize your name, so if you're here for a public comment, now is a great time for that, but no pressure if not.
I am not here for public comment. I'm here with Christine as part of the Mission Street Parks Conservancy, but thanks for asking.
Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you for being here. And thanks for letting us know. All right, well, if everyone's okay with it, we're going to do a quick agenda change. We're going to move our park operation update from Jen ahead of our board item and presentation. Jen has to leave early, so I want to make sure that we can hear. There's a few verbal updates she wanted to share in addition to the written one. So Jen, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Dylan. I appreciate your willingness to move me forward. Just a couple of things. I think for some of you, you'll recall recently when Gretchen Bennett attended the SPRAD meeting, she talked about the new formation of the Community Sanitation Response Team that was sanctioned by City Council. It's a limited duration, 18-month project. The focus of the sanitation team is to do homeless cleanups, kind of to replace the group that's been facilitating the Thursday cleanups that I share about and that Gretchen has talked about previously. So I'm pleased to say, and it just happened the end of last week, the new supervisor to run that crew has been selected, and that's Jake Snell. The name may be familiar to some of you. Jake currently is one of our field supervisors with park operations. So we'll be losing him to a different position, and we'll be recruiting for his replacement. Additionally, this week, on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, we did interviews for a crew leader position within that group, and then for 3 parks maintenance operators. So we have selected candidates. I won't share with you their names at this point because we're still in kind of the offering process, but we'll share that at a future point. So the team has been now assembled theoretically. So the team consists of Gretchen Bennett, obviously, who's the the homeless liaison for the city. Jake Snell is the supervisor, a crew lead, 3 parks maintenance operators, and then 2 designated Salem police officers are part of that team as well. And those individuals have been selected as well and started their new positions. So Jake will be starting in his new role on August 1st. The other folks, the crew leader and the 3 PMOs, those are parks operations staff. Not Jake, but the crew leader and the 3 PMOs are actually park operations staff, although they'll be designated solely to homeless cleanups. They'll be trickling in, but should be starting to trickle in around August 1st. So that team will be getting going, and so we'll provide you updates relative to their activities and cleanups throughout the city. Just as a refresher, that's a kind of a 5-day-a-week team that will be doing cleanups around the city, not just in specific park locations like you might have seen in previous kind of informational updates. So that's the first announcement. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that. So we're really excited. Everybody's very excited about this team getting going and seeing some progress in that effort when it's done on a daily basis as opposed to once a week. So we're all happy that it's coming to fruition. The second item that I wanted to share is on July 1st, the city has adopted a new administrative policy and procedure relative to boards and commissions and public meeting requirements. I shared it with Dylan earlier today to apprise him of that. I wasn't sure if he'd had opportunity to be made aware of that. So basically, the new policy is requesting that all boards and commissions meetings be conducted virtually. So the city felt that the virtual meetings during the pandemic is really kind of when they started. Really, the feedback was that they were more efficient and more inclusive than sometimes in-person meetings can be. Kind of partnering with that reasoning is in 2021, the Senate enacted House Bill 2560, which basically looked at ensuring that there was equal opportunity for folks to submit written and oral testimony, whether they were doing it in person and virtually. The city doesn't feel that it has the resources to kind of continue or to implement hybrid meetings where we're doing them both in person and virtually for folks. And so that's why they went with the format of virtually. There is the opportunity for some exceptions to hold in-person meetings. And I think Dylan may be bringing that up with SPRAB later to talk about a scenario or two where we might want to do that. There's a process for that to happen, and we'll help facilitate that as SPRAB would like that to happen. But anyway, so that's the new policy that just came into effect, and so I wanted to share that with you to let you know that that's overall the format that the commissions and boards and city council and all that will continue to utilize.
Thank you, Jen. That's really helpful. And just for everyone, I had asked Jen if it'd be possible for us to do a retreat in person, just because there's so much value in that in-person connection. And as I understood the policy, there are opportunities for exceptions on a single term basis and things like that. So Jen had offered to help facilitate a conversation or connection with Peter Fernandez, who would have to approve that. So if, now or later, I just we can talk as a board if you all would be interested in having an in-person retreat at some point. When I first started with SPRAB, I think 2019, I guess, there was an in-person retreat shortly after I started, and it was a nice chance just to talk through the board, the history, and think about planning for the future and how to be more as effective as possible. But I guess I should ask before I pursue any conversations with Peter, is that something that you all would find valuable if we were to find a day to be together in person? Seeing some nodding heads. All right. So Jen, maybe, however you can help me facilitate that, happy to work with you on that. That'd be wonderful.
I will. I will reach out to Peter and let him know and relay to him the interest in the board doing that at some point, some later defined time frame, and we can work on when that is and following his process on getting that approved.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Are there other questions for Jen about the policy or anything else she shared? Okay.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Thanks
Enjoy the rest of
again.
your night.
I appreciate you moving me up.
Absolutely. All right. Let's get back in the agenda order now. So we'll go to our presentation with the final skate park concept of Gear Park Phase 2 development. Rob, over to you.
Thank you, Dylan. Tonight, I'm going to share a slide deck, a presentation that's been prepared for next Tuesday, where we're going to have a public community meeting with really targeting the Salem skateboarding community to go over the final design concept for the Gear Park skate park. So I'm going to pull up this presentation, run through it, and at the end, I'd be happy to answer any questions. This is not an action item tonight. I'm simply updating you as we kind of hit this major milestone in this project. Okay. So last year, in 2021, the City Council approved an updated master plan for Gear Community Park, and that included a proposed skate park. And that skate park was identified as the top community priority amongst the new improvements identified at the master plan. Because of that, we engaged a contingency task we had with our design team that helped us with the master plan update. And that was a task to complete a concept for the skate park with community engagement. And so make sure that we have a buy-in and a really robust process that leads us to a concept that we can then take forward to delivery. Here is the base map for the park master plan that was approved last year. If you can see my cursor, here's the skate park right here. It is located in the undeveloped portion of the park, which is the part that's colored. That was the focus of the master plan update. It's right next to the existing bike park. It's proposed to be adjacent to a future inclusive playground with a splash pad feature, as well as a flexible open space field area and some picnic shelters and some additional parking that will be developed in the future. In terms of where we are with this development of the skate park, last fall we conducted a community survey and we got over 600 responses. And this was a pre-designed survey just to figure out what the priorities for the community were in terms of a new skate park facility. And I should stop and just mention, this is a 20,000 square foot skate park that's being proposed. So this is going to be a major facility for the whole community to use. Then in March, we presented two concepts that we developed, the design team and came up with that really focus on responding to the feedback we received from the community. And then we had a second survey, and we had an open house at that point as well, but we had a second survey. We collected additional feedback that helped us really hone in on a preferred design that we are preparing to present a great unveiling to the engaged members of the community next week. And then as looking forward, we're now going to be pretty quiet about this project. It's going to become really an internal effort to plan and design it and have it ready to go out to construction in 2024. I want to talk a little bit about the community feedback we received. In the first survey, which we conducted in the fall, we asked people to prioritize kind of their top features for the skate park. And I'm showing it here. I'm not going to go over it in detail, but this helped us kind of prioritize what folks wanted to see in it. We asked several other questions, and that came up with some takeaways that we got really took from this first initial outreach. There was a general consensus that the focus of the skate park design should be on features that provide people of all ages and abilities the use of the skate park. So we weren't really catering to entry-level users or advanced users. We wanted something that worked for everyone. That was really clear. We got a lot of feedback about the need for covered spaces and lighting. And I just want to be very, very put that out there. Those are both very big challenges for us. Actually building a structure over the skate park to protect it from weather events, and as well as lighting it so it can be used at extended periods. So this project as it is today does not propose to cover it or to provide lighting, but we are considering those things through the design process. That's not precluded for the future in case there's an opportunity to do some retrofits. The other takeaway I want to highlight is that we got a strong response that this should be a landmark facility for Salem. So this really should be a place, no matter where you live in Salem, you would want to come here to use the facility because it is of a caliber that it attracts you to it. In our second survey, which was a response to a review of 2 concepts, we got some great feedback, and we asked this question of the 2 options. Do they do an excellent job of including the elements of various age groups and abilities? Because that is our main goal as a design. We want to make sure that we're addressing beginners and advanced users. And in response, you can see the pie charts here. What we coined option B was a little bit more successful. And so I just want you to keep that in mind as I'm going to show those options. Oh, I'm sorry, a couple more takeaways from that survey. We heard that both options did an excellent job of integrating into Gear Park, so actually siting it in the park and providing support amenities along with the project. Over half of the people who responded to our second survey said that the skate park's designs had something for everybody, or everything they were looking for, excuse me. In comparing the options, option A, we got a consensus that it catered more to beginners and a certain style of skateboarding that's called street features. And it didn't have very many challenging features for more advanced users. In contrast, option B provided more options, and it had the type of transitions that were attractive to more advanced users. Transitions is another style of skateboarding. So you have street and you have transitions. Those are the 2 principal styles. But there was some concerns about it being too crowded and there being user conflict because the features were too densely programmed together. Option B also included more features that we thought could be used by more, or the community thought could be used by more members of the community. So kind of, once again, catering to all users. And option B also had a green space, which you'll see in a moment, in the center of it. And this was generally supported by the folks who responded to our survey. So here we are, option A had the green space. So option A here has 2 really kind of concepts that we wanted to test. The first one is this central donut hole green space. And the thought here is our skate park designer, Evergreen Skate Parks, they do this, as their business. They've done hundreds of skate park designs across the country and internationally, and they have seen in their work that people really like to congregate in the middle of the action, and that can really create safety issues. they become targets for collisions. And so the idea here is if we provided some space in the middle, it would give people a place that they could safely hang out and watch the action and feel like they are in it without being in direct line. It also allows us to kind of space out the elements in a way that we can avoid user conflicts and we can really maximize the space. The other interesting idea we tested here was this linear feature or skate path that extended way down to the south of the park, where folks could have a run on street elements and make use of that. In contrast, we had a more kind of solid unit as option B that had still provided a really good diversity of feature types. So here, these elements would be the street section. We had a flow section, and here at the top we had what's called a clover bowl, a bowl facility. And so everyone really thought that we kind of have something for everyone in this design. So that has moved us forward to our preferred design, which I'm showing here. And that is taking kind of a blending of the two. So the linear skate park feature was not very popular, so it did not make it. But what we do have here is we've retained a central space. It has surrounded by a number of features that we think really hits what we've heard from the community in terms of diversity that they're looking for. The center green space also lends itself to potentially some hardscape elements where folks can sit down, potentially some trees, as well as potentially it might not even be a grass area. That's kind of what I think most people envision. It could be something like artificial grass, because as we move through the design process, maintenance of it is going to be something we're going to have to coordinate with park operations to make sure this is something that the city can maintain. Assuming it is going to be grass, there will be mower access to it. There will also be access to the skate park at several areas at the top next to a proposed picnic shelter that will be developed with the project in a plaza. The plaza will be able to be at the entry level, so you can go right into the park, and there'll be paths around the perimeter with multiple access points to make sure people can get out of the action if they're kind of done with their use of the park. And again, it really has to do with ensuring we have good flow, and then we're also giving people ways that they can get in and out without getting in the line of fire. Here is a variety of the different feature types. I've really enjoyed this project because skateboarding and the culture around it really has its own language, and all these features have interesting names, and it's really amazing to hear the skateboarders talk with our consultants. It's like it's really like they're speaking another language, and I really enjoyed that. But you can see some of the features here and the names that come with them. Here's how the preferred design fits into the overall master plan layout. So it is a little wider than we originally envisioned, but it really does fit in and incorporate well. It will, again, be next to a picnic shelter here at the north end. It'll be right adjacent to the bike park, so that picnic shelter will serve that as well. In the future, in a future phase, which we haven't identified yet, there'll be development of an inclusive playground right next to it, but there will be a buffer space to kind of buffer out the uses. And I think it really is coming together well here. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. I'm actually going to switch over. I want to show you a little different view of the skate park. Next week, our skate park designers are going to share a 3D model in the meeting, in addition to the slides I just showed you. And I just wanted to show you some images from that 3D model. I think that really does a lot to provide the context for this design. So here we are looking north at the design. And again, here's a bowl here and the clover bowl in the back, and the flow section here, and then the street section here, and then that central green space. I'll just scroll down to the next page. And here's a looking straight down at it. And again, another look at what the concept is here. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and happy to take any questions about the project.
Thanks, Rob. I'm excited. And so when is the unveiling? You said that's this week?
That's right. Next Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. We're going to have a Zoom meeting with the community, and our design team will be doing most of the talking at that meeting, and they'll be presenting the design and again speaking that unique language. And then we'll be asking for any final comments. We'll have a comment form, and then we'll consider those comments as we finalize this project moving forward.
That's great. And then you said, did I catch 2024 as expected construction? Is that what you said?
That's correct. We are having a cost estimate prepared currently on this concept. The project currently has $1.9 million in park system development charges available for it. I'm very concerned about the escalation of costs we're seeing on our other capital projects. So I'm real anxious to hold that cost estimate. You know, there may be a potential to go after a state grant or something like that if we need to, but it's an anxious time in the construction world.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are there other questions?
Rob, you kind of talked a little bit about buffer zone and just thinking about the skate park kind of being central there, although being next to the bike park too. Just think about the traffic and skates and skateboarders getting to that area, and is there fencing between there and some of the other elements of the park, or fencing around there to stop people from just walking through it? What's the kind of the barrier plan design there to kind of keep those uses distinct, I guess?
Yeah, there will not be fencing. The way we're looking at it is that the bike park and the skate park have a great, they're both called action sports, and there's going to be a lot of crossover use between them, we expect. We are fully expecting, and we have had participation from BMX bikers and people on scooters, and we're expecting there to actually be a lot of cross use. And in terms of kind of someone falling into it, it's going to be at the north part of the park, and it's really going to be at one of the highest elevations of the park. So you're going to have to go back there to access it. It's not like you're going out of your vehicle or just be at a park entry port and just come upon it. It's going to be your destination. It's kind of in the back.
Right.
And so we really feel like this is an excellent location for this facility.
Great, excellent. That sounds good. And that makes sense to me. Like you said, it is in the back area there. The other question I had was more generically thinking about this, and from a liability perspective for the city. And I know we have some other state park or skate parks already, but is there an increased insurance element with putting in this type of facility over other facilities, and how does parks handle that?
Yeah, I'll start by saying we really are cognizantly trying to consider safety through the development of this. But beyond that, there is, and I see Mark has joined us, and I don't want to put him on the spot, but he may want to add something to this. Oregon has recreational immunity for facilities that you don't pay to use. So you are going to be recreating at your own risk, and I do believe that partially addresses or fully addresses the city's liability.
That makes sense to me, and I've asked because I feel like I remember in my hometown a skate park being produced not from Oregon, right? And that liability was part of the reason they didn't. But if that is a state law here, that makes sense of why that wouldn't be as much of a concern.
It sounds like Robert is looking to move over to the city attorney's office, but yes, I agree with what he said. It would fall informally. I'm saying this, it would likely fall under the recreational immunity doctrine since we're not charging a fee to utilize it.
Right, excellent. Thanks.
It's a great question. Any other questions for Rob? Okay, well, we should all share, for anyone we know that's interested, that the big unveiling is going to be this week. It's exciting. It's fun that you guys are doing that. It seems like a good way to use Zoom and kind of get the community engaged around the final design reveal like that. I saw it on the city's Facebook page today too, that it was being advertised. So it's great. Thank you. Hearing no other questions, we can go into our board member updates. Anything that folks would like to share? Yeah, Alan Alexander. You're on mute.
I recently had an opportunity to attend the lunch get together of the parks operations staff out at Pringle Park. And what a fun time it was. And we talking about having virtual meetings. I obviously lean the other way. I think in person-to-person meetings are much more effective and are much more efficient and much more productive. But I don't know who made the decision, but that's my personal choice. New council member Barney and I had an opportunity to, we've seen each other on the screen for 2 years, but never really had an opportunity to talk. And so that brings that to light. But my point was, we had lunch out in the picnic benches with some guys from the tree section. And we just enjoyed talking to these young folks and how enthusiastic they are about their jobs and how they spoke about, they've got different tasks within the trees. And we're fortunate we got a good crew, and they're anxious to do the work, and they do it safely, and from the way they talk, they do it as professionally as they know how. So credit to whoever selects them and trains them, because we were impressed with the quality of the folks out there just having lunch together.
That's really wonderful, Alan. I'm glad you were able to go. I was sorry I had to miss that, but it sounds like a really good event, and it's really good when we have opportunities to engage with some of the staff too, and just get to see all the great people that the city has on their team. Yeah, Keith.
Yeah, Dylan, my role representing SPRAD to the Salem Public Library strategic planning effort has been ongoing. The last couple of weeks, we've had some meetings of that steering committee focused on reviewing some of the input that the consultants have put together from different focus groups and surveys of residents around the city about the public library and the services it provides. We had a 4-hour strategic clarity retreat last week at the public library, talking about vision and mission type related things. And next week we have kind of our first effort to really start putting pen to paper on some of the strategic planning work. So that's ongoing. I've been enjoying representing SPRAB and trying to think about how the parks and libraries can overlap a little bit in some of their work and some of their ways of engaging the community. So I'll keep you posted.
Wonderful. Any other updates? All right, well, we can move into our information report. We can start with the Mission Street Park Conservancy quarterly report. I know we have a couple folks from MSPC on as well. First thing that I noted was the plant sales is coming up this weekend, starting tomorrow. So we should all mark our calendars for those of us that can get out to the art fair. But yeah, it can be going on all weekend, Christine.
Yeah, the plants. Well, good morning, good afternoon, board members. Christine Shute from Mission Street Parks Conservancy here today. Yes, the plant sale starts tomorrow, and we were over there setting up. I was over there pretty much all day today, and worked for the Conservancy in the morning and the Art Association in the afternoon. And I can tell you, those people are all over the place, and they're doing they seem to be doing an excellent job keeping people out from under the oaks and off the root system. And they've got people running up and down the path policing that. It was wonderful to see that. But anyway, come on out, enjoy the art fair, and please come and see the plant sale. It looks very pretty over there. And I'd like to introduce to you my fellow board member, Maureen Mcgee, who recently joined our board. And Maureen has agreed to take on SPRAB. I don't know what that means. It sounds kind of scary. It's not. Anyway, this is Maureen. She's wonderful. You'll love her.
Hi, everyone. I'll just take a minute to introduce myself really quick. I joined the Mission Street Parks Conservancy Board in May of this year. I am an attorney at the law office of Tonkin Torp, which is a Portland firm, but I live down here in Salem in the Bush Park neighborhood, and am a regular user myself and my family of Bush Park. Really care deeply for that public resource, and I'm very, very happy to be able to commit to being a member of the board and contributing to the community a little bit more in that fashion. So I'll be listening in today on Christine's report, but you might be seeing more of me in the future as we transition roles over so that I can participate and provide reports to Sprad. So really nice to meet everyone.
The only thing I wanted to point out in the report, to highlight in the report, was that we're still waiting for final permission from the city of Salem to move ahead with our woodland garden project. I touched base with Jennifer today, and I know she's been up to her eyeballs in alligators, and we just haven't been able to get final permission to move that along. I personally am very confident that's going to happen, and we'll keep you updated. That's it.
Wonderful, thank you. Did anyone have any questions after reading through the report? Well, I'm hearing none, but we always appreciate your report. I appreciate that we get photos and that it's very nicely laid out every time. It's very easy to go through it. So thank you so much, Christine and Maureen. There's big shoes to fill, but we look forward to having you join us.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's move on to our urban forestry report. I don't think I saw Mylan join us. I'm looking through the list here. So we can, if there's any questions that folks have about the urban forestry report, we can pass those on, and I'm sure that we can get those answered via email, but I'll pause there in case there are any questions. Hearing none. Rob, maybe that would be a good chance to talk a little bit about the sidewalk project, if you don't mind. I had reached out to Rob asking, I had received a question and about the suspended sidewalk project, and Mylan provided a ton of really great information. So Rob, I guess I'll let you take it away if you don't mind.
Well, thank you, Dylan. Yeah, so as part of the downtown streetscape project, we have piloted something that's called the suspended pavement system. I'll explain it a little bit more. Just a little bit of context. There have been some removals of trees downtown recently, and Mylan asked that our city could look into potentially piloting this because of those tree removals, and they did. And so it is a pilot project. We have done this on one tree downtown, and I understand the additional cost to the project for this pilot was in the ballpark of $15,000. So I'm going to throw up some, first a cross section just to explain what's going on, and then I have some photos to share with you. So up in front of you is a engineering or landscape architecture design detail for the suspended pavement system. And I'll just show you. So here we have the sidewalk. And then of course, this is a cross section. And then here we have the street tree. And then here we have the roadway. And what we have here is we have a big space for the tree roots to grow. And we have these cells that are structures that suspend the pavement above the root system. So just as the name suggests, what we're getting here is we're getting more room for the root systems to grow. And the benefit that we're looking for is that we will have less conflict with the sidewalk over time. That's kind of it in a nutshell. And then I'm just going to show some photos. And then if you have any questions, I'd be happy to probably ask Mylan to follow up with you on those. So here we are, the location of the test site is at the corner of Commercial and Court Street. Here is the excavation that occurred for the pilot. You see a big space was dug out. Excuse me, too fast there. And then here they are installing the cell system in that space. So you can see it is suspending quite a bit of room there. Here they are filling the space with growing medium, and you can see that there is a root barrier being added around. There's a root barrier being added around, and then here it is. After the work was done, they've leaving aggregate there at the top for the paving, and then here, last one is a photo I took today. You can see kind of how it looks today. You couldn't know unless I showed you those earlier photos. So we'll just have to see how this does over time. Mylan is very supportive of this. He would like the city to explore using it in other projects where we're putting in new trees in situations where we have a sidewalk really close by. Not everywhere, but in some situations. And I think it's really exciting. Any questions on that before I want to highlight a few? There are actually a few other updates I want to make that are not in my written report.
That's really exciting though,
Yeah.
Rob. Woody, I see you have a question, but so I just want to clarify. I was trying to look at what Woody or what Mylan had written back, and it sounds like so the upfront cost is the concern from just doing this everywhere. But he was saying that the hope is that it's a long-term savings because you're not having to uplift. You don't have to go back and repair sidewalks all the time. And have other cities been doing this successfully? Is there a pretty good model to be following in this case?
I am not aware of kind of how often this is done by other cities. I imagine it is, but that would be an excellent question to follow up with Mylan.
Sounds good. Woody, over to you.
Yeah, they do whole plazas this way. The question I had, is the pavers, are they porous? Are you aware if they're porous or not? At least between them?
It does. I'm looking at the detail, and it does look like it is just Portland cement paving above it. So I can confirm that. I could confirm that, but I believe it's just your standard concrete there on top.
Because in line with the tree to tree, they look like they're pavers.
I believe it's just a scored concrete detail.
Okay, because it was different color too. That's why I was wondering if it was a. Okay, thank you.
And Woody, you're thinking there that letting water through would help actually get roots to go in that area?
Well, water draining through between them, then the trees are less likely to cause problems with the pavement, really, when they have water coming down into their root systems, rather than trying to come up and find, like, water condenses on the bottom of pavement because of, and that's a lot of the root problems are because the roots come up to get that water off the bottom of the pavement, when it's better to have the water down in the whole root system of the tree.
And so you would think the effort would be aided by the idea of porous concrete or pavers or.
Pavers. That's usually how they've designed those, is to have those pavers that are, and then porous. Actually, Carol Smith has plans of doing this concept that she had done years ago.
Okay, interesting. Rob, my question, you mentioned, and maybe this is in the report and I just missed it, but I think you mentioned an additional $15,000. What is the cost of replacing a street tree like that if we didn't do it this way? What's the marginal add on that?
Yeah, so I think the cost would be in the concrete repair, the sidewalk repair. That could be significantly more than $15,000. And it could be something that would have to be done several times over the course of the tree's life.
And so just replacing the tree, if we were to just pop another tree in there without having to do the suspended concrete, would be considerably cheaper, is what you're saying. But the idea of we're essentially reinvesting in the concrete, so we don't have to continually pay for the concrete replacement.
Yes, this is exactly. So we reduce the conflicts that occur with the uplifting of the sidewalk over time.
Okay.
Yeah, Woody, did you have another question?
Yeah, you're more likely to retain trees for a longer period of time because the way it has been, some of those streets have been replaced since I started on the tree crew in 1973. Some of those trees have been replaced 4 times, where they've had to go in and take them out and then do repair and then put another tree back in. And then a couple of those times, though, were when they did a whole streetscape replacement.
And that was some of my thinking is you're saving the sidewalk, but you're also saving the tree, and theoretically probably having a healthier tree grow and grow longer as a result. So so there's that cost saving stat into the return as well.
Any other questions for Rob on that before we move on to other updates? Oh, Al, I should say welcome. Great to see you. We are we had an update on the skate park concept. We've talked about. We also got an update that meetings are going to stay virtual for the for the foreseeable future based on a new city policy that came out. So Jen gave us an update on that. That's for all boards and commissions. We were talking about possibly trying to do an in-person retreat at some point, and that is based on the new rules. Will have to be approved by the Public Works Director, Peter Fernandez. So I'm going to be looking into that, and we'll come back to everyone in the near future, hopefully looking into more details. But those are the main updates, except for we have our newest member, Debbie Miller. So we're thrilled to have Debbie join us for her first meeting today.
Thank you. I apologize. Transportation and flat tires can always be avoided.
That's all right. Rick let us know you were on your way, so appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
All right, Rob, back over to you.
Thank you. I did want to just once again, so we are the Parks Natural Resource Planning section is now down 50% of its staffing. I have accepted and am now in the position of manager, replacing Patricia after her retirement. And that leaves my vacancy. So we have a vacancy for our park planner. We also have Tony Whitler's vacancy, as Dylan mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. She has accepted a position in the city's urban development department. And so we've lost her as well. So I am preparing to do a recruitment for to fill up to 2 positions. We are looking for folks that can both be park planners and natural resource folks. So or really strong on one or the other. Jen Monogolo, who's the other one aside from me, who's currently in this section, she needs a lot of assistance. She has a lot on her plate. And so moving forward, we will be advertising a job posting, and we will be having a recruitment process. So I just want to let you know. I also want to talk about some big news that occurred here in Oregon on Monday. The emerald ash borer was officially identified here in Oregon, and this is an invasive insect that devastates ash trees. It is something that we've been tracking for some time. And it is a very big concern. I'm sure Mylan is going to talk to you about this at some point, as many street trees are ash species, and that's its own concern. But also, it's the Oregon ash, which is a native tree, is very common along the city's streams in the riparian zone, and so we have a lot of concerns about what may occur in the future as this insect seems to be making its way to Salem. We are, and when I mean we, Mylan, Jennifer Mongolo, our stormwater folks, our city's communication team, they are formulating an action plan right now so we can get some information out to the community. Because the other aspect to this is those riparian trees are not city trees mostly, they are privately owned trees. So we were trying to make sure we get some information out soon to the community. It's kind of something we're taking very seriously. I'll stop right there in case there's any questions.
No, I had missed that, so I appreciate you sharing that news. That's disheartening to say the least.
Rob, I'd seen the headline on that, but where was it detected? What was the location?
I believe it was Lake Oswego.
Okay, that sounds right.
I want to mention briefly Iron Man. I believe Becky will probably, it's in her report and she may speak to it a little later, but I want to talk about a change this year. We had 2 biological monitors in place for the event. One was monitoring the eagle's nest in Minto Brown Island Park as part of our incidental tank permit. As it was a requirement of the permit that we do that. And so that was an opportunity to collect some really good data. We also had a biological monitor in place in MICA in the Minto Island Conservation Area because we want to understand the effects of these large events on the conservation area. So we don't have official reports on the monitoring activities yet. We'll get a report in a few weeks and I'll be sharing more details. I just want to let you know that is another change that happened with the Ironman this year. Lastly, that's actually it. I already talked about the suspended pavement system. So that's all I have. There are some other updates in my report and I'd be happy to answer any questions about those.
Thank you, Rob. That's really interesting. And I look forward to hearing more about what was found with the eagles and everything else. I had a quick question on the bond. I know that with the bond moving forward, one of the big questions now is going to be hopefully passage of the bond to pay for all these great things. And I know that, this is a case where we as community members can be talking to people about the bond. And are there certain projects within the parks funding that, you are particularly excited about, you as the parks team, that we should be, lifting up as we're talking about this and some of the benefits that could come if this funding was approved?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to highlight probably two projects. One is there's well, it's not really a project. There's two dog parks proposed to be funded with the bond. One would be located at Gear Park, and I think one is tentatively planned for Fairview Park. I get dog park requests like nothing else. So I think this is really responding to some community need, and I'm really excited for that. The other one is actually somewhat dog park related. Parking lot number 2 in Minto Island Brown Park is going to be funded for a complete paving and an expansion if the bond passes. I see a lot of, I appreciate that. I'm really excited about that one. Also, parking lot number 3, which is at the end of the road, it would be completely paved. With these projects, we will bring them up to city code, and there'll be some, there'll be some stormwater treatment. I'm not really say a full sweat of stormwater facilities because it's in the floodplain. There's really not benefit to getting it in the ground at that point, but we'll be treating it. We'll be improving the pedestrian connections in these parking lots, making them a lot more accessible. And so I'm really excited for those. And there's some other great projects as a package for parks. The bond really focused on investing in what we have, and that's the developed parks. So there's a lot of playground replacements. There's a lot of picnic shelters in currently developed parks, a lot of restroom replacements, really things that Jennifer's group really needs and that we don't have funding for elsewise. So it's a great package of projects.
Thank you. And I'm just putting the city link in here just in case anyone hasn't seen it recently, but just there's a lot of good stuff in the bond. And I think there's going to be a lot of questions from the community just because there is so much. And so as this moves forward, it's good for all of us to know. On the park side in particular, this here says $28.4 million for park upgrades, which is obviously a wonderful boon to the park system. Keith.
And
Oh,
I've got a question. Just a wild idea. There are 2 stumps in Riverfront Park where the beaver had damaged the tree, started to fall, and the trees were cut down proactively to manage the safety of the situation, which is great. I'm wondering about the future of those 2 stumps and whether or not there might not be a talented artist that could address the appearance of those stumps to make them look like 2 little beavers, or some other interesting thing rather than just sawed-off stumps. Any hope?
I think we'd have to have some discussion about that and potentially some coordination with the Salem's Public Art Commission. I think it's an interesting idea. I do think that we should retain the root systems in the ground. We shouldn't grind the stumps. I think they're doing a lot to stabilize the bank. But I think we could explore that possibly a little bit more and see if there's some interest in pursuing that.
I think it'd be cool. Nice attraction.
My question was going to be similar along the lines of the beavers. I didn't see that in the report, kind of what the status of that was. I know last meeting we had talked about the damage on those trees. I hadn't been there to see that they had actually been cut down at this point, but and some others had been fenced off, and there was some trail camera monitoring. I just was curious if the beaver was still persistently going at the park trees there up the bank, or if I know there had been some efforts to maybe move some forage and things down the bank for the beaver. So I was just curious kind of where that was, and more broadly the Jennifer Mongolo's work on the plan for the city.
Yeah, so I'll tell you that we're still working on the kind of our beaver policy. But specifically about Riverfront Park, I haven't heard about any additional damage. I believe that maybe our efforts have been successful. I could follow up with the board on an update on that next time. And, the other thing I want to highlight is Jennifer is starting to work on some outreach, because I know that's another part of this. So we're working on a web page on the city's website with some information about kind of coexisting with beaver. I know she's doing some outreach and talks at some events to try to get the word out there. There are things people can do if they're experiencing issues. And so I think that's where we're really focusing our work right now.
And if I might, just to follow up on what Rob said, the city is working on that plan specifically. It's in my office. I'm going through it, looking at the legal implications as to what needs to be of the plan and in relationship to some other plans within the city as well. So that's what's going on with that.
Wonderful. I know Debbie had her hand up, so let's go to Debbie and then Al, we'll come back to you.
Yeah, I just want to say that I go to Riverfront Park a lot. I ride my bike there, and those beaver trees have been very popular. I hear people talking about them, looking at them. And I think that the art thing is a great idea. And I also think even an informational sign or something like that about beavers would be attractive in that area too. Just people are interested in beavers, so.
It is the beaver state. And that, I believe it's the same family of beaver that has established a dam upstream across the slough, upstream of the Peter Courtney Bridge. If you cross the bridge and you just look upstream about 50 yards, there's a mud and stick dam across the slough that raises the level of the slough a foot or so. And that gets rebuilt each time that it's flooded out. So it's beaver is still there. I'm presuming the range of the beaver is such that it would include Riverfront Park from that dam or wherever the nest home of that beaver is. But they're in the area and they're doing their beaver thing.
Any other beaver comments? Rob, I had a different question for you, or a request. So you mentioned the website a minute ago, and I know, so just over a year ago, maybe it was 2020, I know I'd worked with Tony, and I think you were part of it, working on a parks kind of fact sheet for the city, and you had worked on kind of creating your own page. And as if I remember right, the city said, like, let's put the brakes on this. We're going to do a whole new website. And so I've been on the new website, and I think that the parks website looks great. There's so much more information, and I'm glad to see. I'll just share it for everyone in case you haven't been on the website in the last couple of months. I like having the by the numbers and just kind of helping people see everything. I was surprised there was two things I was hoping you could ask to include. One is the GIS map, the really nice interactive one under the Find a Park that's not linked there, and I was surprised by that. It's nice to have the list of parks, but we have that really great map that you can kind of click around and just find yourself in your neighborhood and see the green space. And so I guess that's number one. I'll stop there if there's any reason that wasn't included, or if that could be a request you could put in.
I believe it's linked somewhere, but it is not as prominent. No, I understand your point, and I can definitely talk to the communication team about that and pass along that feedback, certainly.
Great. Yeah, because there's a Find the Park tab, and I think just right there at the top would be wonderful. And then the other one was volunteering. We have in the by the numbers, it talks about volunteer hours, but there's not a clear link anywhere to volunteer or how to get involved. And so I think maybe below park governance, where it talks about SPRAB, you could have a volunteering thing and just talk about some of the opportunities, but to include that there might be a good place for us just to tell people how to get involved in their own ways.
Good idea.
I appreciate that you're looking at our new website. I really appreciate that. It's still somewhat a work in progress. I think I know in the park planning and development portion, it's still finding things that need to be fine-tuned on a daily basis. One of the benefits of the new website is that it's kind of the role of web editor has been kind of spread out. Everyone has their own part to maintain on the website, and instead of going through, before we had specific staff, it was that you had to go to if you needed to something published on the website, and they would actually go do it. Now it's kind of, we all have a little bit of access, so I think it's going to really help us keep it updated and have a little more diversity of information.
It looks really good. I'm really impressed with it, and I think you all did a great job. So I'm excited to see it. And yeah, those were the only two things I noticed that I can remember from the previous draft you made that didn't make it over here. Those are all the notes I had. Any other questions for Rob? I know we've given you a lot of questions and feedback today, Rob, so thanks for taking it all. All right, well, we can go on. We already had our park operations update. We can do our recreation update now. And I know we already talked about Ironman a little bit, but Becky, I don't know if you're, yeah, there you are. Sounds like it was a successful event. I know I saw a lot of people before and after the event all throughout town, so that's exciting. It was really great to see all the different people with their Ironman bags, all the bikers testing out the routes and whatnot. Anything you want to share with us about how it went and everything else?
Yeah, no, I thank you for the opportunity. Yes, so Rob is right. That was something I was going to share with you that wasn't in my report, was the fact that we had two certified licensed biologists out there. So I'm also looking forward to hearing what that report was. Hopefully it went well for the biologists and the eagle and all of the little birds and turtles that might be nesting in the Minto Island Conservation Area. One other point that I put, I think I put in my report was that, yes, I did. So this was the first time. So last year, because of the Minto Island Conservation Area and the different federal restrictions or guidelines that we need to follow as far as how many times an event can pass through that area, the number of people in events during nesting season, those types of things. Last year, Ironman was in town, but they didn't actually use the went over the Peter Courtney Bridge and through the Minto Island Conservation Area. They went down on Front Street, out down Commercial, and went into Minto and ran, and then came back that way. So they didn't go through the Minto Island Conservation Area. So this year, we worked with Patricia and Jennifer, and then Rob after Patricia left, and we ended up for the first time closing the Peter Courtney Bridge and then almost a mile in through the through the Minto Island Conservation Area. We actually closed that path on Sunday. There was some concern from the fire department and EMS and Ironman and just for the safety of everybody. So in the many years that I have been here, I have never been able to close a public pathway in a park, specifically that pathway, which is beloved by the thousands of people that visit it every day. So we actually did it, and I think it went pretty well. We had some people that weren't aware of the closure and came up there, but not very many. Was only between 8 and 4 on Sunday, and the event was a huge success. I think they ended up with about 2,400 participants. So last year, the report was that it was an $11 million economic impact to the community to have Ironman here. So I obviously, with the event just last weekend, those numbers aren't in yet, but we are looking forward to getting those numbers, and any input that the biologists have, and then we'll have a recap meeting with the other city staff and Ironman folks in a few weeks. So just, I think hopefully it was a very smooth event. The participants were all very happy with it, I think, from what I heard. So hopefully it's another success for us. So that's a positive. So the art fair that was mentioned earlier, this is the first year that we've made the move for them to be out from under the trees there. Today was the first vendors moving in. And so I worked with the traffic engineers and signs and sweeping supervisor, and we performed a street closure or a lane closure of High Street between Miller and Bush today to allow vendors to move in. And that way they weren't driving through the park and that type of thing. And then on Sunday, that same lane closure, just northbound lane closure between Miller and Bush, will be in place again for all the vendors to move out. So we'll see how that goes, and hopefully that will be a success for the art fair, Salem Art Association, the Mission Street Parks Conservancy and their plant sale, and the neighbors. So that's again something new this year that we're giving it a shot and hoping that will be a positive step for the future. And then my only other things that I had was just, and then of course, if there's any questions, is 2 invites to the group. First, the invite for the movie this Saturday. It's been 2 years since we've been able to have movies in the park, and we are super excited to have those back. So I just was down at Riverfront Park a little bit ago, and we inflated the 24-foot screen, and we've moved to the new Jerry Frank Salem Rotary Amphitheater. So Saturday night will be our first movie. It is a movie called Free Guy, which I guess is kind of maybe fitting since the movies are free. So yeah, come on down and enjoy the new facility and night in the park. And then the other invite is just, and it's in the update, is we have our USA Softball 10B Western Nationals coming up in 2 weeks. So on Monday, the 25th, there will be opening ceremonies, and there'll be hundreds of girls 10 and under, girl fast pitch softball players, and they're huge families that I always bring grandma and grandpa and brother and sister and aunt and uncle and mom and dad. So that will be the opening ceremonies, the 25th, down at Riverfront Park in the new amphitheater. And then there'll be games galore at the softball complex on the 26th through the 31st. So come out and watch some softball. And then if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
I have a question.
Sure.
I was checking out the setup on Saturday afternoon, evening, admiring how they've got the nice inflatable buoys staggered down the river so that they could see the red ones on the right and the yellow ones on the left. And as I was watching this, I watched a few skiers, jet skiers, going up and down. And then after a bit, I happened to notice this yellow buoy just drifting down, and it continued to go down past the bridge, past the other bridge. And I'm wondering if that buoy was ever retrieved, or if it's down in Portland or in someplace.
That is the first I've heard of that. So I don't know. But now I'm going to have to ask Joel, the Ironman coordinator. I had not heard that story. So
Saturday night it started drifting.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm making the assumption that they got it back, but that's a good question. I didn't know that had happened. To my knowledge, it didn't happen last year, but somehow they didn't get it anchored well enough. It doesn't sound like.
Yeah, I don't know how to account for it having been released. All I can say is I think it's a wonderful event. I'm glad it came off well, and hopefully everybody finished in good health.
On the positive side, you brought that up. They do a fantastic job. Obviously, Ironman does these events all over the world, but they account, there's chips, they account every body that got in that water, everybody got out. So that's, with the run, with the swim, it's they're very good at watching that. So yeah, so I think it was a good event, but I appreciate that info on that buoy. I want to find out more.
Joan, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, for the second year in a row, my granddaughters have had a really good time at the Englewood Park camp. So that.
Is it the summer parks program? The
Yes.
1 12 to 4? Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, it's really great.
Good. Well, I appreciate hearing that. I will pass that on to staff and the supervisor, Melinda. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Becky? All right, hearing none. Thank you so much, Becky.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move into new business. We lost Debbie. She's coming back in. Give her just a second here. Wanted to bring up two quick things, both related to award recognition. One is, as I mentioned at the start, with Tony leaving, and as we recently, Patricia retired, I thought it would be good for us, as people used to leave the board. I know Tony used to do a little certificate that she would give people to thank them for their service. And it seemed like it would be nice if there was something on behalf of SPRAB, like a certificate. And I emailed Rob and he said that it'd be possible. I was thinking maybe next time if we wanted to do like a resolution or a motion or something just to thank them, just trying to find some way that we could, show appreciation. I think Tony was involved with SPRAB for almost 15 years. And I'm not sure, I know Patricia was involved for a long time. I don't have the number, but curious if folks have thoughts or other ideas of something like that that could just show some appreciation for the work they put into this.
It's entirely appropriate. I think that's a reasonable thing to recognize, and the minimal obligation I think we have to show our respect and appreciation. That's fine. I'm all for it.
Great.
I concur. I've worked with both those professionals. They did an excellent job, and particularly Tony. She was so patient with us as board members to try to get what we need or answer the same question she'd already answered, doing it again. So she was really a resource, and it was her focus in life is to serve the parks of the city, and in doing that, she also served us. And so both those folks should certainly do recognition. And I support any way we can conceivably do that.
It's a great point. Rob, would it be possible for you to help make up a little certificate for both of them, and maybe at the next meeting we could do a simple resolution that we could vote on, and that way that we could present that to them. We can invite them too, but just to give them something, that we wanted to recognize them, and we as the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board voted to give them this award or certificate of recognition and appreciation.
Here, here.
Absolutely.
Okay, that'd be wonderful. Well, I'll stay in touch with you on that. I know you are working 4 jobs for 2 people right now. So if I can help at all, let me know. Hopefully there's a template out there so it's not too hard from what she's done with the retiring board members. The other thing I wanted to bring up was speaking about awards and recognition. I had the idea recently, and partially inspired, Al, by what you and Rick had talked about with the parks employee you encountered that it was just doing a wonderful job at, I think it was at Wallace in that case. But I was thinking about just ways that, we as SPRAB can be active in the community and kind of showing recognition and support, and wondering if it would be appropriate for us to consider creating an annual Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board award of recognition, or something where maybe there's a small plaque that goes with it, but some kind of community award. And so every year we could all vote on someone. Maybe it could be multiple, but it could be an individual that's a parks employee, or maybe it's a volunteer, or someone that's really been active in a certain project. Maybe it's a neighborhood association, but to give some recognition, just to call out some of the work that's happening in the community. And it would be a way for us to put our stamp and kind of show that acknowledgement. So thought that might be an easy way for us to highlight some of that work, and then also give people some credit for the work they're doing. And I think, as I said, Al and Rick, your tour around the parks really showed, I think, that there's a lot of people that are unsung heroes, and it might be nice to give them a little show that this board is listening to or sees that work and wants to give it some praise.
My only reservation might be that not enough people appropriate to receive such a thing would actually be able to get it if we did it once a year. there are a lot of people doing good work for parks out there
Yeah.
as employees. So,
Yeah,
one,
yeah,
I
I
don't know how
did.
best to do it.
Yeah, I didn't meet an employee that I didn't think was doing a great job and with a great attitude. And I don't think we could give recognition monthly, but yearly might not be enough.
It's a good point. And maybe there's, and I'm just thinking out loud, and are there, a couple different tiers where we can give some monthly recognition that we had but then is there an annual award that maybe rises to a level of someone that really helped create a park, or did, someone that was really active in their community in different ways, but really open to some thoughts here. But it seems like a way that we could help just really share that with the community.
Dylan, I like the idea. I think it would maybe be worth putting together a small subcommittee of us to outline what that looks like, right? In terms of kind of how would we formalize a process around it, maybe a bit more, and would we accept nominations, or is it just kind of what we observe? What would those nominations look like? That type of kind of formalized process around it. But I think it's a good idea. It's a good way to kind of publicly recognize a lot of good work out there, which is another way to market the parks through that sort of promotion, market the work that is being done. So I think it's good on a lot of fronts. It's just, I'm not sure. I guess the next step in my mind would be get some pen to paper on a process around what that looks like.
It's a really good point. And Rob, I don't know if I could call on you again, but do you have any knowledge of, do other boards or commissions have award processes like this, that there's something we could look to as a model, or do you think we'd be creating something relatively new in that case?
Off the top of my head, the only thing that comes to mind is of course the city council and the mayor have various programs they give recognition to community members and volunteers specifically.
Does Amanda Sitter do some kind of overall volunteer acknowledgements?
I believe the what I just referenced with the city council and the mayor, she's involved in that process. This would probably be a better item to discuss with Jennifer Keller.
Okay. That's a good point. I know we've lost Jennifer for this meeting. Keith, you bring up a really good idea of a subcommittee. I know that that can create that's more time, but I wonder if
Did everyone else just lose Dylan?
Yes.
But people
all
are
right. We all lost you, Dylan, right as you were about to say your brilliant idea, but it sounds like so.
I was saying that I know with letters, we'll give permission for 2 or 3 people to work on something and come back and propose it. That way it's not a quorum and there's follows public meeting laws. And so I wonder, Keith, if you and I want to try and put some ideas down before the August meeting and maybe try and talk to Jennifer.
Yeah, I'm happy to help, and I think that would just help, right? Otherwise, I don't know how we would move forward at this point. Help us all think about it and make sure we're all on the same page with kind of how we would want to approach this type of effort. So I'm happy to help with that. I've done a little bit of awards committee work with my day job, so that's something I'm happy to help with.
How does everyone feel about that? Is there anyone else that would like to get involved? I don't want to take the opportunity away if others are jumping in.
Sounds good.
We can all send you our ideas, can't you? And you guys could look this thing over and maybe put some borders on it.
Yes, and I'm going to channel Mark here because I know he's in the meeting here, that I think if you could send those to Rob can send those out to us and make sure we route it appropriately. So then Keith and I are just working with each other and we stay true to the public meeting laws. Mark, did I do right by your presentation?
That sounds about right, that the comments should only go to staff, and then staff can make it in a any ideas are not the deliberation of board members.
Perfect. And then Keith and I will talk we'll just at least email Jennifer to get some insight into those awards and come back, and we can pick this up again in August and see where we're at. And there's no real pressure on timeline, but I think this could be something maybe by the end of the year, if December is, when we would be a good time generally for awards. So we could look at that. All right. Any other new business that folks want to raise? Okay, hearing none. In terms of next meetings, so we have our August meeting. We'll talk about possibly doing a retreat sometime this fall. And then July 25th is when our council, the letter that we all approved last month is going to go to council. So I will be there to submit some testimony. That's the letter requesting more collaboration with council. And Debbie, just for your knowledge, we can share that with you, but you'll see it in the council packet. Basically, we were requesting more opportunities for us to be present during council work sessions related to parks and trees issues, requesting that we are an agenda item once a year to present our annual report, a post-public comment, some different changes like that to really help streamline the process and also provide more of a relationship between council and SPRAB to hopefully help just elevate these issues even more. So that'll go to council as an information report on the 25th, and we'll see what council does with it, and we can address that again in August. Okay, any final notes before we adjourn? All right, well, thank you all. I hope you have a wonderful night, and I will see you in August. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.